recently announced two new watches, the Pacer and the Pacer Pro. So what exactly are the differences between these two watches? In this video, we'll look at exactly what you get when you go from spending $200 on the Pacer to $300 on the Pacer Pro. Okay, I just want to start off by saying these are two very similar watches. If they're the same color, it would actually be hard for you to tell them apart just looking at them. But for reference, I've got the Pacer here in black, and I've got the Pacer Pro here in white. The Pacer Pro does look a little bit nicer, I have to say. It has this aluminum bezel around it. And the buttons might be slightly nicer. Each of these two watches come in different color options. The Pacer comes in cloud white, deep teal, purple dusk, or this black color that they call night black. And the Pacer Pro comes in a few more color options. They have one called carbon gray, aura green, autumn maroon, midnight blue, and this white one that they call snow white. But the watches are the exact same size. They're both 45 millimeters in diameter. They're both 11.5 millimeters in depth. The screen is a 1.2 inch display with 240 pixel resolution, and both screens have been improved to be brighter. And then you can also control that brightness in the settings menu, unlike previous models. Now, technically the Pacer Pro weighs 1 gram more than the Pacer. I mean, I think, blindfolded, you would never be able to tell the difference between these two. But both watches have running and walking tests that determine your VO2 max estimations. They both have Polar's Training Load Pro, which helps you keep track of how much strain you're putting your body through during workouts. Both watches have Fit Spark, which will give you a little suggested daily workout, or even kind of provide you with little animations on how to do certain exercises. And then when it comes to like swimming and biking and running options, these watches will pretty much function the same. And then, after an activity, you can actually look at what Polar calls their fuel wise. That's on both of these watches. So you can tell, which fuel source your body was burning. So if you do, an easier workout, you're probably burning more fat than carbohydrates. You can see all of that stuff in the app, after you've done the workout or on the watch itself. And then both watches have Polar sleep stage tracking. You guys know I talk about that all the time. It's probably one of my favorite sleep tracking metrics from any of these watch brands. But it'll show you a nightly recharge, so how much you've slept. And then also, all of the different sleep cycles, how you're progressing through those sleep cycles. Then things like heart rate variability to kind of give you a better idea of how really recovered you are, and just kind of your overall sleep quality. And then both watches have a multi-sport mode, meaning that you can track full triathlon watches in either of these watches. Now, these two watches do have some differences. For example, the Polar Pacer Pro has a barometer built into it. Maybe that's where that extra 1 gram of weight comes in. But the barometer allows for the watch to do things like hill splitter. If you're not familiar with Polar's hill splitter feature, it basically tracks the number of hills you do. So it is a nice little tool if you are doing something like a hill workout where you're repeatedly going up and down hills and you do want to keep track of that. The Polar Pacer Pro also includes running power. And I always preface that by just saying that, this is an estimation of running power. So the watch is looking at stuff like your speed and your elevation gain and your bounce, and it's estimating how much power you're putting out while running. It's different than like a cycling power meter that's, generally speaking, measuring the exact amount of wattage that you're putting into the drivetrain. That being said, it is a great tool. You can use running power to pace hilly running races, or even doing like interval training on a variety of different surfaces or routes. I just don't want you guys to get the idea that the running power that you see on this watch is gonna match the running power that you're gonna see on a different watch like a Coros or a Stride FootPod or something like that. And it's not because one's right and one's wrong, they're just different calculations. But the Polar Pacer Pro also has route turn-by-turn navigation. And I wanna be clear about that as well. That isn't full-blown mapping with navigation. Basically you get a little arrow for like turns, and you can sync routes from places like Komoot. I would say that it's a little hard to tell the difference between GPS accuracy between these two devices. I did test both of these devices against a Garmin Epix that had all systems plus multi-band GPS turned on, so very accurate GPS. I would say that the Pacer Pro looks to track a little bit better than the Pacer in a few situations. But you know, I don't think that it's a huge competitive advantage between either of these watches. I also tested both of these watches against a heart rate chest strap to compare heart rate accuracy while running. And you know, as you might expect, both of these watches use the exact same Precision Prime optical heart rate monitor hardware, and they are both actually, you know, pretty solid when it comes to heart rate accuracy. I actually think that both of these are kind of the best data that I've seen from a Polar wrist-based optical heart rate monitor in all of my testing, but I can't tell the difference between the two. They're both pretty good. So, which one of these is right for you? I'd say, you know, that's definitely gonna be left up to you to decide, but I don't think that you're giving up all that much if you wanna save money and go with something like the Pacer instead of the Pacer Pro. I think it's a really good option. You know, ultimately, I would prefer to hear what you guys think. Would you go for the Pacer over the Pacer Pro? Now, on this channel, I do have a ton of Polar related videos, a ton of GPS watches in general for that matter. But you might wanna check out the Pacer Pro specific video, which I'll leave right here, or the Pacer specific video that I'll leave on this side. Either way, be sure to get out there, swim, bike, run, rinse, and then repeat it all over again. And we will see you guys in the next one.
I need you more.